Certainly, I'll do my best to do so.
Sir Evelyn, will you tell us something about the present situation in Kenya?
Certainly, I'll do my best to do so. I look at it rather like this. I should say that everybody in Kenya, that is to say whether they're European or whether they're Asian or whether they're African, who are reasonable and have a decent outlook on life, are faced with a threat. It's a threat in a limited area of the country, and it's a threat from one of the many African peoples in Kenya only. But all the same, it's a serious threat. It's a threat that I think any doubt whatever was to attain power for themselves. And in trying... Now you may very well ask and very well wonder, given the numbers of people engaged on both sides, why it hasn't been stopped long ago. Well, the answer to that is that it may look extraordinary that it's gone on for so long from Great Britain. When not actually on the ground, it looks quite different. Because we are faced with very great difficulties, great physical difficulties. There are two large mountain messes quite close to the city of Nairobi. One round Mount Kenya, the other mountains called the Aberdares. Each of them is covered with forest, with very dense forest indeed. It's just as dense as what I imagine the Brazilian jungles are. And the Kikuyu were a forest people long before Europeans ever arrived in East Africa. The Kikuyu, that is to say, who are in Mau Mau, operate from those forests and have to be sought and have to be chased in them. That's our great difficulty. Let me go on and say this, that I think that this conspiracy, this violent movement, takes several forms. And we've got to fight it in whatever form it appears in. Sometimes it takes the form of large, comparatively organized gangs operating from these forest bases and attacking either European farms or even more the villages and the houses of ordinary Kikuyu living in what is called the Kikuyu land unit. It is to say the main area, agricultural area for Kikuyu. Sometimes it takes a quite different form of individual assassins mixing with the ordinary work people, going to work in the morning, coming back from work in the evening in the city of Nairobi. The first, the military problem, the second, the police one. Sometimes it takes a third form, of much smaller gangs, committing robberies, committing attacks, committing arson on houses, either in the European farmlands or in the Kikuyu reserves. And that's a combination of a military and a police problem. Those are the three forms, and we've got to try our best to fight all forms, all those three forms.
How are you in fact dealing with the problem of the individual assassins and the organized gangs?
Well, to give you a very detailed answer, but I'm afraid it takes too long. But let me say this.
How are you in fact dealing with the problem of the individual assassins and the organized gangs?
Well, to give you a very detailed answer, but I'm afraid it takes too long. But let me say this. At bottom, it's a battle for information. If we can get information about the gangs in the forests, or if we can get information about the individual assassins in the city of Nairobi, then we can get at them. And to get this information, we have got to bring over to our side and to give enough courage and enough protection to Kikuyu. It's only Kikuyu who can give us the information about other Kikuyu. And that we've tried to do, and tried to do not without success. But it can't be done unless a measure of protection can be given. And gradually, slowly, but after many checks at the beginning successfully, we have built up in the country areas an organization called the Home Guard. And the Home Guard are the Kikuyu who have decided that they're opposed to Mau Mau. Some of them have been opposed to Mau Mau all the time. Others, after starting on the Mau Mau side, have realized that it is leading their people to destruction, and to complete destruction, and are coming over to the side of all peace-loving people in Kenya. And they are a very important element indeed in our action against Mau Mau. They've showed great courage. And under the cover of protection by the army and the police, it is on them that we rely for information and for much of the follow-up action. And what we've done in the country, we are now repeating in the city of Nairobi. And though it is in its earlier stages in Nairobi and is not so easy to do, yet results are already being seen.
And now, Sir Evelyn, what about the future in Kenya? How do you see it?
Well, I see the future like this. And we've got a lot of problems of peaceful development, as you may well imagine. Problems of varying importance. But the most immediate one, the one that's right on our doorstep, is a problem of African agriculture. That's been caused in the main by a large movement of Kikuyu from one part of the country to the other. And we've got plans for African agricultural development. But those plans are for the development of African agriculture as a whole, of all the African peoples in the country. We've prepared a big and a detailed plan for this, and we hope to do a large number of things in it. It is based on some very good work that has been done in the past and is continued right up to the present day in African agriculture in the colony of Kenya. And we hope in it to save, to improve some of the rather arid country inhabited by certain, particularly of the pastoral tribes of Kenya. But we hope also to improve production very much in what are sometimes called the African areas of high potential, because a great many African peoples, including the Kikuyu, live in a part of the country where the soil is very good and where the rainfall is high. And we have plans for improvement in many ways in those areas. Now, quite apart from that agricultural question, we've also got the question of general development of the social services. And that too will be based on what's been done in the past. We've got plans, for example, for education. May I give two illustrations, because I haven't got time to go in any detail into our educational plans. Now, one illustration is for what we call trade and technical schools. Of course, technical education is by no means the only side of education, but I thought I might mention this one. It's one to turn out Africans to be artisans in the factories of Kenya. For that, we need a certain standard of education. Now, we're going to extend that. And to boys who don't reach that standard, we're going to offer, we hope in the future, the chance of a rather rougher form of technical training in what we call rural training schools. So instead of becoming an artisan, the young African will become a handyman with a certain knowledge of, let's say, building and carpentry, capable of getting a job in his own areas perhaps, or perhaps on a European farm. Now, turning from education to health, I spend time to give you one illustration. We have already started, and we hope to go on building what we call health centers in the African areas particularly. And the idea of those health centers is a combination of preventive measures and of curative measures. And also a very definite aim of bringing medicine and bringing preventive health measures into the houses and into the villages of the people, instead of waiting for the people to come into the hospital. Those are two illustrations of the type of things that we have in mind for two important social services. Now, quite apart from social services, we've also got to try and develop the background on which our agriculture and our industries may grow. And we intend to spend money in the future, because we've already spent it in the past, on that background, on roads, on geological survey, on water development, always a very important thing in the drier parts of Africa. And a great deal of Kenya is dry. We're going to be in financial difficulties because of the struggle against Mau Mau. We're going to have to spend a great deal of money on security. But in spite of that, we are confident and we hope that we will be able to go on both with social development and with the background, such as water, of economic development that I've just spoken about. Now, how do I start? Tell me when to start.
Right.
Finally, let me say this. The struggle against Mau Mau has been long. I'm afraid it will still go on for a long time. But let me add, we are not stationary, we are making progress, and we are all completely confident that we will eventually succeed and destroy Mau Mau.
Right.
Finally, let me say this.
The present situation in Kenya.
I think that threat has come about as a result of a conspiracy. And a conspiracy that's been laid very deep and that's spread very wide. It's been organized by a comparatively small number of very clever and very ruthless men whose aim without, in order to gain power, they've used the methods of the most bestial cruelty. And as everybody knows, there have been Europeans who've been killed, there have been Asians who've been killed. But by far the greatest number of sufferers, by far the greatest number who've died as a result of this movement have been Kikuyu. So the thing has become, in a way, a Kikuyu civil war.